Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review for a film that came out 5 years after the 1984 classic Ghostbusters. This is called Ghostbusters 2 from 1989. This is a 2-pack here that I have on DVD. It comes with a booklet and a couple of animated episodes. It says specials, I don't know what that means. I assume it's from the original cartoons or something. But anyway, Ghostbusters 2, the 1989 film, is once again directed by Ivan Reitman. And it's also written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd once again. All four of our lead Ghostbusters come back, as well as a lot of side characters, like Annie Potts, the actress, comes back to play the secretary character that I can never remember her name. Sigourney Weaver comes back to play Dana once again, and Rick Moranis comes back once again too, which is a great thing. But like I said, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson are all here. By the way, Ernie Hudson doesn't get a single claim to fame on the top of this box or the back, and he's one of my favorites, if not my probably second favorite behind Bill Murray when it comes to my favorite Ghostbusters ranked up. Anyway, so Ghostbusters 2 actually, timeline-wise, takes place, and the first thing you see on the screen says 5 years later after the events of the first movie, and it's kind of a tragedy. This was my first ever Ghostbusters film, by the way. I remember watching this in the basement of my grandfather's house before my parents split up back in the day, and it was right around that time they were about to tell me, too, so you could kind of feel it in the air, you know what I mean? But I was hanging out with my grandfather at that time. We watched this on a rental from a Hollywood video rental store, and I remember having a blast with it, but no joke, I think I've seen this film maybe twice in my entire life, whereas I saw the first film probably 4 or 5 times in my life, not many times for either movie. But all I remembered about this film was how much it reminded me of Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie from when I was a kid that I watched quite a bit. I still own on VHS, by the way. So that's all I remember about these two films was how much they correlated for me, and something about pink ooze in a sewer. That's all I remember. Ghostbusters 2 essentially picks up when the gang have essentially went bankrupt. They had to shut down Ghostbusters because they got ripped off by the scumbag who eventually became the mayor or whatever that they talked to quite a bit at the end of the first movie. Even though they saved New York City, they got ripped off with taxes, they got ripped off with almost basically criminal charges, I assume, and they lost their business, the Ghostbusters business. And even down to Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver have a breakup, and she went off, she got married. The cold open of this film is actually showing her after she's already been married, divorced, and had a baby. And when she's walking her baby in its stroller, the baby gets pulled away all of a sudden in a very creepy way. It almost gets run over by a bunch of cars in New York City traffic. This film does take place in New York once again. And they start to realize something weird is going on. She goes and contacts Egon and Ray and talks to them briefly, and then eventually Venkman and Ernie Hudson get brought into the fold once again. And the Ghostbusters kind of start over again with a smaller version of their original company. But once again, it's kind of taking off to be success once again after the situations they're going through. At one point, they even get put on trial again for trying to bring back Ghostbusters. This film has kind of a notoriety of not being as good as the original film. And where I would agree with that, I would not say that this is much less of a downgrade compared to that first film. The first film has perfect pacing. It has really nothing you can cut out of it or shave off of it, and the film flies by because of how tight and the editing, pacing, and writing and everything really is for that movie. It all works. The ad-libbing works. It's just pretty much perfect as it is, but I don't love it like a lot of people, as I said in my review for the previous first movie. This film is not much of a lesser film compared to that movie, where I would say that I think that what I remember of the Ghostbusters video game is probably better than Ghostbusters 2. Ghostbusters 2 is solid when it comes to comparing it to like modern day film or sequels of other IPs and whatever, like if you compare it to Halloween's franchise or whatever. Ghostbusters 2 is fine as it is. It's too long. It's right at that hour and 50-minute mark, and it could clearly have a lot of stuff cut out of it. There's a lot of annoyances in it that, whereas I think the first film has it for personality's sake, this film has it in a way that's closer to the 2016 film. Like, just obnoxious things that get drawn on too long. For example, Sigourney Weaver has a boss at her little museum that she works at, and he is like I don't know what the fuck he is. He might be a Frenchman or something. I don't know what kind of European accent the dude is supposed to have, but it irritates the shit out of me. The actor's doing a good job. I'm assuming he's some kind of American doing this accent, but it's so over the top and cartoonish. I don't know what was first, Ghostbusters 2 or the cartoons. I'm pretty sure the cartoons were before this, like the real Ghostbusters cartoon. I'm pretty sure those were not 1990s properties, because it feels like this movie was much, much more for kids than the original Ghostbusters was. Yeah, you can watch the original Ghostbusters with your kids. Again, I did that back when I was a kid with my dad, and eventually I think my grandfather as well at some point, and that movie scared the hell out of me. It scared my cousins, it scared all of us quite a bit. But Ghostbusters 2, I never felt that way with the couple of times I saw it in my life. There's a painting in here of a villain that was referenced in the first film that ties to that first film in Gozer, named Vigo. And Vigo is kind of our big bad of this movie. He is a demonic entity, spirit, whatever, trapped in a painting who is communicating to that one of the characters, I would say. I don't want to spoil too much in case you give a shit or haven't seen the film. The actor playing Vigo is kind of goofy, but it fits for this kind of overall goofy film. The third act of the film is super cartoonish. It feels like a movie that came after a successful children's cartoon tied to the IP. That's what Ghostbusters 2 feels like to me. And again, I don't hate the film. I don't think it's a bad movie really at all. It's just too long, it's too drawn out, and there's too much in here that should have been snapped right out of there in the editing room. A lot of the ad-libbing is good, the writing is good, the performances are good. Look at the cast here, man. They're good. Even people I don't like that much, like Sigourney Weaver, whether it be in real life or her career, I like her a lot here just as much as I did in the first film. To be 5 years later after that first film, the chemistry maintained amongst these folks is really great, and I love it. It still works for even a film that's pretty lackluster and kind of disappointing compared to that first movie. Even though I'm not a big fan of the first film, I can still recognize the little bit of change up between the two. But I don't think it's like the worst movie ever. I've even heard people say that Ghostbusters 2016 is better than this film, and I think you're fucking crazy if you think that. That film is a so bad it's a good movie, but it ain't better than this, in my personal opinion. Would I watch Ghostbusters 2 quite a bit? Not really. Not really, to be honest with you. This film still has personality, and I like that about it. The tone still works for it. It doesn't look as good as the '84 film. Can I say that? Does anybody else really talk about that? I don't think they do. It doesn't look as good. You know, the only thing that's really improved filmmaking-wise, to me, are the special effects. There's not as much of practical effects stuff in here, but when there is, it looks fine. But I think a lot of, like, the ghosts and stuff, to me, the way they're shot, the way they're put into the film, they look better most of the time in this movie, in my personal opinion, than they did with the stop-motion mix with live-action filming in the OG '84 film. That's a big improvement I think a lot of people don't give credit to, and I think it's overshadowed by the Power Rangers Pink Ooze stuff, even though this was before the Power Rangers movie. But I still think it's a fun joke to make. It's overshadowed by the Pink Ooze stuff, because I think that's what most people remember about this film if they didn't care enough to keep watching this movie over and over again over the years. I don't really know what else to say. I guess we could talk about the music a little bit. Personally, I think this has a really good soundtrack. I think the Ghostbusters theme song is a little underutilized in this movie, which is kind of a shame. There are moments that clearly, like the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny mishap, where they really didn't play the Indiana Jones theme song as much as they totally should have. They had the same issue here all those years ago in '89 with this movie. It should have had the Ghostbusters theme song more, but it really improvises with this new song. I'm assuming by Ray Parker Jr. I don't know who it was by. It's a good song. It was something like, We Need to Take Control or something. I don't know. Again, I've only seen the film like once every 10 years of my life, so I can't really tell you too much about it. But I like that song a lot. Really good. Not as catchy as Ghostbusters theme song. I'm assuming by the same artist. But it's good. I like it for what it is. Ghostbusters 2 is not a complete mishap. There are characters here that if you love from the first film, you would watch probably this movie to get more of them because of how much fun they are. And I really enjoy that about it. Aside from that, it's a little bit goofier, and again, it feels very cartoony. It feels like a movie that was hatched out of the popularity of a cartoon series tied to this massive IP that clearly was not a children's IP once upon a time. Children could be interested in it, just like they could Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, or whatever, but it's been affected by that, in my personal opinion. Ghostbusters 2 is a solid flick. Not a great movie, not really even, I don't know if you could honestly call it a good movie. It's just fine as it is. If I had to rate Ghostbusters 2 on a 5-star basis, I would probably give it about a 3 out of 5 stars. I like it for what it is, It ain't great. I don't know if I'd really recommend it to anybody who's not a hardcore Ghostbusters 1 fan. Outside of that, if you're not, it's not going to be for you, man. I just don't see it. And does it feel like some of the jokes in here are more mainstream audience compared to like the OG movie? Does that feel like a thing to any of you? Let me know that down in the comment section down below, because I picked up on that a couple of times. Since I don't really connect with that first movie as much as most people my age or older than me do. But anyway, have you ever noticed that? Let me know. Anyway, Ghostbusters 2, what do you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about the film down in the comment section down below on this nice rainy day outside. Anyway, is it your favorite Ghostbusters film? I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. But is it? I'd love to hear all that down below too. I also want to announce really quick too, I think when I do these big series reviews, like with this, when Frozen Empire finally comes out in March, if I get a chance to see it in theaters, or whenever I do see it to review it this year, streaming, DVD, whatever, I will probably do a ranking video of the films from worst to best, best to worst, whatever, starting at the worst, going up to the best, whatever that would be called. Just want to let you know that in case you're curious about that kind of video being made. I think I will do that with the series and franchises I talk about. But anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Tune in for the next review for Ghostbusters 2016, or Answer the Call, I think is supposed to be the new subtitle. I don't know what that film is fucking called. Who cares? Anyway, I'll be reviewing that next. I'm about to start watching it after I wrap up this video. And, oh well. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all again, and goodbye.